Hello, U.S. history classes. And in this, the final lesson for this week, we're in this unit about westward expansion. And we're talking about all the different facets of westward expansion. So, in this lesson, we are going to be talking about waves of immigration. Okay, now so far this week in lesson number 1, we talked about how we're going to get people out there, namely the railroads, and the fact that as more and more people come out west, they're going to need food. So we also looked at the cowboys. Those are two kind of iconic images of the West: the railroads and the cowboys. Then in the second lesson, we actually talked about getting people out west with Homestead Act and the land giveaways. Who's going out west? Namely, there's a lot of Southerners and there's a lot of newly freed African Americans that are looking to rebuild their lives. And we also continued with some other inventions that are going to help people out west. Well, in this final lesson, we're going to pick up again with who's moving out west and talk about these waves of immigration. Okay. Now, I put the notes on Canvas so that you can use them as your own leisure. I know that some people like taking their own notes and things like that. I would highly suggest, especially for this first part, that you use the notes I gave you on Canvas and do some filling in the map. Okay, I think that might help you as we move through these. All right. So there are 3 waves of immigration that we're going to talk about. To be honest with you, the first wave we have already kind of dealt with because we've been dealing with this wave since before or since the beginning of the class. Okay, so wave number 1 is everybody prior to 1871. Okay, wave number 1 is everybody prior to 1871. Now go back all the way to Jamestown and Plymouth and places like that we talked about at the beginning of the year. Those people are coming from England. Now, it's not just England. We're going to be talking about Northern and Western Europe. Okay? So this area right here, all right, here's Northern and Western Europe, this area right here. Germany, Great Britain, Ireland, Norway, Sweden. You could put France in there. You could put Spain in there. These are the countries that we're talking about. All right. And like I said, we've been talking about them since the beginning of the class. All right. So here's Northern and Western Europe right here. All right. And you can see here they come across the Atlantic. They're going to land on the East Coast. That's where the 13 colonies were. It makes sense that this wave comes here. Now, we know that when they come south, they're going to be farming and things like that. We talked about motivation. Some of them are looking for religious freedom. Some of them are looking to make money. So there's a lot of contributions. Think about the North. All right. The North is industrialized. So a lot of the immigrants in this first wave are going to end up in the textile and steel mills of the North. They're going to end up in the industries of the North and the clothing factories in New York City. All right. For a lot of immigrants, the first thing that they see, especially later on as we get into the other differing groups of immigration, a lot of things that they see deal with New York. New York is where Ellis Island is. Okay. That is the main immigration station. It's where Ellis Island is. And a lot of them are going to end up staying in New York because that's where the factories are. All right. And there's where the job opportunities are. So this wave number 1 before 1871, East Coast, a lot of them are coming in through New York, especially as we get into the 1800s because that's where Ellis Island is, and a lot of them are going to stay there because of the factories and the industries in the northern part of the country. Now, waves 2 and 3 both occur between 1871 and 1921. Okay? Wave 2, 1871, 1921, also going to come from Europe, but this time they're going to come from Southern and Eastern Europe. Okay, so this area right here, all right, countries like Italy, Greece, Poland, Russia, Hungary, Yugoslavia, all right, those areas like that, all right. So here on our map, we can't forget Russia over here, all right. So here's Eastern and Southern Europe. And once again, they're going to be coming across the Atlantic and heading into the country this way. A lot of these guys are going to stay on the East Coast as well, except they're going to be working in the coal mines of the East, especially the Slavs, the Italians, and the Poles. All right. They're going to be working in the coal mines of the East. So think, and the steel factories as well. So think Philadelphia, West Virginia, okay, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Those are where there's going to be coal mines. And that's where a lot of these immigrants are going to go, is they're going to be working in those steel mills and those coal mines. Now, wave number 3, also during the same time period, 1871 and 1921, but from a completely different area. Wave number 3 tends to be made up mostly of the Chinese, okay, coming from Asia. All right, and there's China in particular, and then here's Asia. Notice they're not going to come across Europe and come the Atlantic way. They're going to go across the Pacific and enter in through California. All right. The Chinese immigrants that come over here, they are going to play a major role in building the Transcontinental Railroad. All right. A lot of them are going to work for that Pacific Railroad Company moving east. Okay. The Union Pacific is coming west. The Central Pacific is coming east. Okay. In fact, think Central Pacific Chinese, CC. Okay. So the Chinese are really going to help manufacture the Transcontinental Railroad. The Chinese are also going to be some of them, the group that often faces the harshest discrimination and the harshest racism. Okay. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That's going to be on the quiz as well. Okay, so the Chinese come in wave number 3, coming into California. They're going to face a lot of discrimination because they are different from us. Europeans, okay, a lot of connection to Europeans because they kind of look like us, same color skin, same language base and stuff like that. Chinese people totally different, okay, totally different language, different physical characteristics and stuff like that. So they're going to face some of the toughest discrimination and racism of the immigrant groups. Now, why would these people come here? All right, what are they looking for? Well, to be honest with you, they're looking for the same things that we've been talking about since the beginning. People come to America because, and there's all 3 of the waves together, okay? People come to America because they want freedom and better lives for their families. They want more rights. They want religious freedom. They want better economic opportunities, which will give them better lives. This is what we've been talking about since day one. Okay. I mean, think of the settlers at Jamestown. They were looking for economic opportunity. Think of the settlers at Plymouth. They were looking for religious freedom. So over time, if you wonder why immigrants are coming here, it's because they want more freedom and better lives. And what's spectacular about that is they are willing to work for low pay and in dangerous conditions to get that. Okay? In some cases, and the conditions here are bad. We're going to talk about that later in this unit. It is not pleasant. Okay? But the immigrants are willing to do that because they want the freedom, they want the opportunity that America provides for them. And the conditions they're working in are often better than what they're going to find back home. So immigrants play a major role in our nation's industrial strength and our nation's growth. All right, they are very, very important components to the makeup of our culture. All right, and they bring their culture with them. That's something else we're going to talk about later, something called the melting pot. We pride ourselves on being a melting pot, that they can bring their culture here, but at the same time, we want them to fit in our American culture as well. All right, and we want to celebrate that diversity. Very, very short lesson with this first waves of immigration. We're going to talk more about that next week. We'll talk more about immigrants next week. A couple things to remember because they are going to be on the quiz, and I want to be sure I hit them, okay? Waves 1 and 2. A lot of them are going to come in through New York because that's where Ellis Island is. Think Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island. A lot of those immigrants are going to come in New York. That's going to be the first site they see. They're going to stay in New York because the opportunities, the business opportunities working in factories and things like that. Chinese are going to come in the Pacific. Okay, they're going to settle in California. They're going to have to deal with probably the toughest discrimination, toughest racism, because they are simply different. They are perceived as different from the other European immigrants and different from the Americans. Okay, so those are a couple things to remember as we move from this lesson into the little quiz. Now, that wraps it up for this week. We're going to pick up with immigration next week. We're going to talk about some more things. We're going to talk about industrialization, working conditions, some business changes that are going on. And keep in mind, it's not like these things are happening separately, they're happening at the same time, and they're occurring while we're moving through Reconstruction as well. Okay, so there's just a lot going on in this period. Try to make it easy and break it up into individual lessons so you can basically understand what's going on, but realize it's all happening at the same time.